kindly request the professors to take off their caps. I open this session with a prayer. May the spirit of wisdom and mercy grow and blossom in us all. Please be seated. I welcome you all at this academic session on the occasion of the public PhD defense of the dissertation Biaoqing on Chinese social media. Sorry for the pronunciation of Ms. Ying Lu. We have supervisors present here and a PhD committee present online. Let me introduce to you the members of the PhD committee. We have Professor Zhu from the University of Birmingham, Department of Applied Linguistics and Communication. We have Dr. Seargeant, Open University of the United Kingdom. We have Professor Wei, University College London, Institute of Education. Professor Swanenberg, Tilburg University, Tilburg School of Humanities and Digital Sciences, Department of Culture Studies. And Dr. Hou, Tilburg University, Tilburg School of Humanities and Digital Sciences, also from the Department of Culture Studies. And next to that, we have the supervisors here, Professor Blommaert, Professor Kroon, and Dr. Varis, all from the Department of Culture Studies of the Tilburg School of Humanities and Digital Sciences. Before we start the defense and the opposition, I would like to give the PhD candidate the floor to give a concise summary of her research in terms so that it can be understood for a broad audience. Please.
Highly esteemed opponents, supervisors, dear friends and colleagues, thank you for being here with me. Please allow me to introduce my research project, Biaoqing on Chinese social media. Biaoqing are graphic signs that are comparable to, but much more versatile than the emojis and memes in the Western world. Before we go to more details, I'll lay out the approach. In this study, the conceptual framework of a chronotype will be used to meet the descriptive and the contextualization requirement. Chronotypes are time-space configurations governed by moral behavioral norms. And what happens in a chronotype is genre, which is triggered by the indexicalities of the semiotic signs. For example, the usage of a string of Biaoqing triggers a specific genre of a playful Biaoqing interaction. And in the chronotypes where this Biaoqing operates, we have the behavioral norms that this is a mock delightful fight. And the mischievous, insulting, or vulgar expressions are not meant to be taken seriously, and that no offense should be taken. Those are the behavioral norms in these related chronotypes. It's important to note that chronotype is a heuristic concept. That means they are what we use to control the research and to they are the heuristic concept that help us control the research and the strategy. The heuristic concept leads us to genres, to indexicalities, to the behavioral norms related to this cultural form of Biaoqing. And this research approaches Biaoqing from the perspective of digital ethnography. Ethnography aims to learn the meanings, norms, the patterns of a way of life. This, in essence, is to gain comprehensive knowledge of the culture and the study, to review the social structure underlying the communicative practices and social life. And the digital ethnography does not entail the exclusion of offline data, but it emphasizes the epistemological implications for digitalization of communication. For instance, what we observe online is never purely online. it is in one way or another shaped by what happens offline and vice versa. So the field we conduct the observation is an online-offline nexus where the both zones needs to be seen as fused into one inseparable space. And in such a space, algorithms are the invisible players. They play a very important role in shaping and ordering the values, visibilities, and communicative practices. And the communication we observe in such a field is, in essence, scripted, asynchronous social interaction that are confronted, shaped, and constrained by the digitalization. And the data for this study were collected between 2015 and 2019 on various social media. And the result is an over 4,000 item corpus of Biaoqing-related data. And this will be the basis for the findings. In this study, we found that Biaoqing are visual signs that are created and given meaning through online actions. For example, when Biaoqing users notice the peculiar usage of this wave hand Biaoqing to express meanings other than goodbye, they resort to some question and answer forums to inquire, to learn, to negotiate the meaning of this Biaoqing. And all of these processes involve extensive learning practices and knowledge work from the internet users. And in this sense, Biaoqing are intangible knowledge products that are afforded, shaped, and constrained by the affordance of technologies. And Biaoqing and the related practices are the cultural phenomena in an online-offline nexus. That's because their communicative mode of usage, their meaning, their indexicalities are rooted in and intertwined with the Chinese culture and society. And they are the results of the complex interaction between the norms in online and offline spaces, which fuse into a bewildering range of new practices of social interaction, of knowledge exchange, of learning, of community formation, and of identity performance. And one result of such new bewildering practices is the community of knowledge of Biaoqing, the building blocks of which are knowledge. And I will continue to use this wave hand Biaoqing for illustration. In this question and answer thread, the participants are connected solely through the internet, through the topic of Biaoqing. And there are few other connections between them, and there's no membership obligations or responsibilities. And their participation in this community is to a large degree the result of the fact that the knowledge practices, the learning practices are performed in an algorithm-mediated space. So in this sense, this knowledge community, this community is loose and light. However, the meaning learned, negotiated, and accepted in this community will convert into the usage norms of this specific wave hand Biaoqing. That means this will be the norms according to which the participants will conduct themselves in some light, in some banal segments of their life, that in essence are the micro-hegemonies. So in this sense, this loose and light community is at the same time tight and bonding. And structure-wise, this community is stratified and dynamic. That's because, first, this community inhabits an online-offline nexus where both zones interpret and shape each other in unpredictable ways. Second, the building block is knowledge. That is, the total semiotic effect of Biaoqing, and they are the unstable mutual interaction between the meaningful sign forms, and they are contextualized in specific communicative situations and at the same time mediated through the cultural ideology. The entailment is that such a community is never finished, and it is forever in shaping. This instruction community embodied in this question and answer forum is only one example. There are numerous such communities about Biaoqing, and they together constitute the grand community of knowledge of Biaoqing, which is enormously large and amorphous. And the Biaoqing practices are not confined to this Biaoqing chronotype only. They cross to chronotypes of commerce, industry, education, and politics. And such cross-chronotopic phenomena of Biaoqing are thanks to the indexicalities and the omnipresence of Biaoqing in Chinese society. And these are only possible through the extensive knowledge work, learning practices of the enormous users of Biaoqing. And these are, in essence, the digital labor that converts the Biaoqing, their related practices, and the digital and the big data into some various different types of capital for different stakeholders. And in this sense, such digital labor are simultaneously cognitive and epistemic, creative and artistic, economic, social, and cultural. So to sum up, the study of Biaoqing presents us a picture of the intangible knowledge products of actions, products and actions that generate communities, values, and markers in an algorithm-mediated and a chronotype-specific way, and that illustrate the processes of vernacular globalization. Thank you.
So, thank you very much for this exposition. Are you now ready to face the opposition?
Yes.
Okay. Then I would like to invite the first opponent, Professor Zhu, to start the opposition and ask the first question.
Okay. Can you hear me? Thank you very much, Ms. Liu, for your summary of your research. I want to start to say straight away, I really enjoyed your research very much.
Thank you.
And as the first one to ask a question, could I ask you to explain why did you choose this topic?
Can you repeat, why did I choose what? Topic. Well, I have to start from the course. One of the courses that I took in my master's studies is a sociolinguistic course, and the term requirement for the term paper is to choose a topic you are interested in to illustrate some research skills that you have learned in the course. And at that time, I was very interested in the multimodal studies. And in these much broader research disciplines, I choose to zoom specifically on the Biaoqing. Back then, it was not yet as versatile, as rich as now, but I already began to notice how the Biaoqing relates to interact with the, let's say, verbal expressions. And that's the very first step and the, let's say, the but for me to focus on this topic. And when I was applying for my PhD researches, I already have the, let's say, pilot study from that course, and I developed it into a proposal. And I was very proud of that proposal and hoping to develop it into a prospering and illustrating and helpful piece of work for the scholarship. And that's actually also how and why I found my supervisors here in Tilburg and under their help, develop this study.
Thank you. That's very useful to know your motivation and how you actually started the project. My second question is to do your data collection. Yeah. You have explained just now very nicely the digital ethnography, the method you have chosen, and you made a point about the blending of online and offline methodology. Could you actually explain what actually specific about digital ethnography that actually you have actually used in your own research that help you to collect data and analyze the data?
Highly esteemed opponent, thank you very much for your question. And I have been facing the problem of data collection all through this research. And that's also a learning process for me. And the digital ethnography, it provides me facilities and helps in collecting the data, but also poses problems. I will first explain how it helps me collect the data. As we know, digital ethnography or ethnography aims to understand the social structure of the society, the culture, and the study that requires me to enter into the life worlds of my participants, so-called participants. From this point of view, it directly tells me where to go. That is, I need to fund the media, fund the forum where my object of study are being actively, enthusiastically used. That means I need to observe actual usages of the Biaoqing and the people's attitudes of Biaoqing. And that helpfully leads me to the social media, to the WeChat groups where I can find the data. And also, in the ethnographic studies, what the object of study is not merely Biaoqing, but what people do with Biaoqing, how they gain their meaning, and why people use this way. That means we need to collect information about the total semiotic facts about Biaoqing. This gives me very clear instruction as to what data I need to collect. That means I need to collect not only what Biaoqing people are shaping, are creating, or what Biaoqing that I can see on specific forum. I need to go a step further. I need to pay attention to the concrete communicative situations where Biaoqing are used. I need to pay attention to the social, cultural rules behind the way, behind the reason people use specific Biaoqing in which specific way. And so that's the second way it helps me collect the data. Of course, it also poses difficulties for collecting data. I guess that's also a problem faced by most ethnographic studies. That means you are facing a unique topic as a researcher, and there are more general directions where you can learn from others. But in your uniqueness, that means you have to independently build your own structure of documenting your data, of classifying your data. In my case, I have tried to classify, document my data and categorize my data according to the forums they are collected, according to the actions people use to, for communication, and also according to the specific communicative situations this data are used. But none of them turn out to be helpful throughout the research. And later I realized maybe I don't have to confine myself to one standard of data categorization or documentation. And to some degree, I just follow the topic of each chapter, of each stage of study, and use whichever classification or categorization that's helpful for this specific topic. So that's the challenge that I have been faced in collecting data in this process.
Thank you. I just really want to actually unpack a bit more about the challenges you mentioned, and for the purpose of preparing other future researchers who are actually doing social media research in the future. So to be more specific, could you explain the challenges you talk about? You find when you actually in the early stage of data collection, you find the data you have collected are not useful. In what way they're not useful?
For example, in the early stage of my data collection, I mostly classify my data according to where they were collected. For example, on WeChat or on Sina Weibo or on some question and answer forums. But when I go a step further, I realized that even though they are from different social media, they are collected from different social media, but in one way or another, people might do similar things on different social media with a similar Biaoqing. So I need to follow how exactly people use this. That means I need to follow, I need to shift to the classification according to what people do. But when I finish the stage of describing the actions of the actions people perform with the Biaoqing, I go a step further to analyze the chronotopes, the specific communicative situations. In that case, the previous standards of social media and action would not be helpful anymore. And in this case, I was forced to shift to the concrete communicative situations. And that's also the reason why in my corpus, I have a folder classified according to the forum, and a folder classified according to the communicative situations, for instance, conflictual communication. And also, in some stage, I began to build a folder according to the interaction between the Biaoqing and the text messages. For example, Biaoqing owning data, or Biaoqing complementing text message data. So I wouldn't say all these struggles are useless. It's a process for me as a researcher to grow, to develop, and to know how to approach and to know when to change my strategy to best fit what I want to understand in this specific phenomena that I'm studying. And I think in general for ethnographic researchers, they just need to remember that we are faced with something totally new, well, not exactly new, but in our personal world is totally new. There's no need to panic when you need to change, and no need to worry when you need to come up with something new. And you don't even need to feel worthless or useless when you have to turn over what you have built before. It's a process of growing, and I'm grateful to all this building and the tearing down and the rebuilding process that I've been through throughout the 4 years.
Okay. Professor Zhu,
Thank you.
are you satisfied with these answers?
I have a very quick follow-up question if I have time, but if I don't, I'm very happy to hand it back to the chair.
I'd prefer to give your colleagues also the floor when time permits at the end.
That's
we come
fine.
back to you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I would now like to give the floor to Dr. Seargeant to continue the opposition.
Thanks very much. And firstly, I just wanted to reiterate what Zhu Hua said, Ying. It was a fascinating thesis and a very interesting topic, especially to look at something which, well, to look at Biaoqing particularly within the context of emojis more generally. And that's what my question relates to. I wanted to ask you something which relates your work to what we might call emoji studies in general, and looking particularly at this idea of the concept of semiotic creativity. You mentioned it very briefly in your presentation, and of course you discussed it in somewhat more detail in the thesis. I'd be interested to hear some thoughts from you about it. As we know, the participatory nature of social media results in a lot of what we might call grassroots or vernacular creativity. And this is as true with emoji creation as it is with anything else. And with standard emojis, with Unicode standard of emojis, the type of creativity is a lot of constraint. What you can't do, how constrained the vocabulary is. Now, this isn't the case with Biaoqing. So I wondered if you could say a little bit about how you see the role of creativity as part of communication with Biaoqing, and depending on your answer to that, then how you might characterize the types of creativity that you observed and analyzed.
Is the question clear to you? It was difficult to understand, I'm afraid.
I'm sorry, highly esteemed opponents. I think the network connection or something is not really working well. Can you kindly repeat the question for me?
Certainly. Let me try and make it a bit simpler. I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts about the role that creativity, semiotic creativity, plays in the use of Biaoqing and the practices around it. Not least because creativity is a very important aspect of social media communication. And yet it strikes me that it's rather different in standard emojis than it is in Biaoqing. So basically, you say something about your analysis of the way that creativity was used in communication via Biaoqing.
Thank you. Is the question clear? Otherwise, one of the supervisors can paraphrase it maybe.
I caught the keyword of creativity. And thank you very much, highly esteemed opponents. And your question is very insights to the phenomena that I've been observing. And actually, activity has been what I see everywhere in the data that I collected. And in each case of using the Biaoqing, I observe and I found the Biaoqing users creating something that's new, maybe not new to the degree to totally throw away how the way people use 表情 in the past, but they added some personal accents, added some requirements to fit their own communicative needs, to create something new. That's actually illustrated in the case of the wave hand 表情. It originally means a friendly goodbye, but somehow some, let's say, very creative 表情 users came up with the idea that, well, besides saying goodbye, maybe we use this wave hand 表情 to say, it means I don't want to talk with you anymore. So goodbye for end of conversation. And from here, we see the full creativity of the 表情 users. They are making use of the existing 表情, existing semiotic forms, and recontextualize it into their own communicative situation to serve their own communicative requirements, their communicative aims. And I would say everywhere in the data we see, to a greater or to a lesser degree, the phenomena that go under the name of recontextualization. And in such situations, we always observe some invocation of the already existing 表情, already existing norms for using them. And at the same time, they twist the norm a little bit. They add something of their own to come up with some new way, some new norms of using this. And that's the process of how the meanings, the indexicalities of 表情 gradually got evolved. And they not only evolve, they develop towards different directions. And I remember a very illustrating example. That is the elder 表情 on Chinese social media. Originally, they just mean 表情 that you understand at the face level. But you know, on Chinese social media, there are digital natives. There are also increasing number of elder citizens who began to use 表情. And in such situation, these newcomers are not so familiar with how the young digital natives use them, and this causes misunderstandings between the two groups. And at this situation, the specific creative young 表情 users, they created some 表情 that follows or takes after the aesthetic standards, the, let's say, intelligible levels, competence of the newcomers, of the elder internet users, and they created the 表情 specifically for communication with these elders. But the story doesn't stop here. And here we see again and again the creativity of 表情 users. They illustrate this 表情, they reflect their own communicative requirements, their communicative needs, and they use 表情, they began to use this elder 表情 to declare their full knowledge of the 表情 culture. And they began to use this 表情 to some degree express their the social stress, their age anxiety, and all the problems that they face. So it again become new tools for a new semiotic resources for more and more communicative situations. And in each stage of this morph, each stage of the development, we see the creativity of the Biaoqing users working here. And I would like to say more that about the creativity. It's not the creativity of one or several specific individuals. It's to some degree the collective work. Such phenomena appear online, and through the algorithms, the people get exposed to such information. They began to reflect on this. They began to spread this, and also they began to refine this. And that's how the creativity work for these Biaoqing users, and how specifically creativity work in an online-offline nexus.
Thank you. In view of the time, Professor Sjaak, is this answer satisfying to you?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to give the floor to the third opponent, Professor Wei. Please continue the opposition.
Hello, hi. Greetings from London. In your presentation and also in your speech, you talked about the community of Biaoqing as a stratified and a dynamic community. I think that's a really interesting way of looking at it. And I want to hear more of your comments and thoughts on the stratification of this community vis-a-vis the stratification, the overall social stratification in China.
Opponents,
Is
thank you.
that clear? No, I just want to hear more of your comments, both the internal stratification of this community and how that relates to the overall social stratification in Chinese society, so the overall social stratification.
Esteemed opponents, thank you very much for your question. If I hear you clearly, you are asking me about the stratification of the community that I observe online.
That's right.
Yeah.
In relation to the overall social stratification of society.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this question. In the community that I have observed, I see that the knowledge practices showed that the participants in this community, they have differential levels of knowledge of this specific topic of Biaoqing. So in the first sense, their capitals of the participants is stratified. And second, when we come to a slightly grander level, we see the specific groups, specific communities within this knowledge of community of knowledge of Biaoqing. The distribution of this knowledge are not equal. That means some communities, they have some participants in this community, they have much more knowledge than the other communities, or they have knowledge of this specific type of Biaoqing, while others have only a small fraction of the knowledge of Biaoqing. And here I can give you an example. Let's say the elder Biaoqing, when they are introduced online for the elders would take this specific type of Biaoqing as the whole knowledge of Biaoqing. That's all they know about Biaoqing. However, for much younger Biaoqing users, this elder Biaoqing is only a small fraction of what they know about Biaoqing. They know much more, they have a much more reservoir of Biaoqing. So in this sense, participant group-wise is also stratified. They are unequal. I would say these two aspects are the most important texture, the important fabric under the stratified structure of the knowledge community of Biaoqing.
Professor Wei, does this answer, is
Yeah,
this a satisfying
thank
answer to you?
Thank you very much. I do have a follow-up question.
Yes, please continue.
But before that, if I may, I would like to say that what you said just now is extremely interesting, very valuable, and there is very limited amount of sociological literature on the social structures and social stratification in contemporary Chinese society. And I think you does contribute to that, especially from the underrepresented social groups in society and looking from the everyday social practice. I think that's really, really important. And I think it would be very useful to connect what you have done to the sociological and social debate about social economic class and overall social structure in contemporary China. My follow-up question is really about
Please be
your
concise.
focus that you mentioned just now on the elderly and the elderly. It sounded like what you were saying is the inability or the creation of the elderly actually, in some sense, restrict the elderly's access to knowledge of overall. But I guess my question is really why you are particularly interested in the elderly population of Biaoqing. And again, I'm really interested in any comments you may have on the role and any agency the elderly group has in.
Please be concise in your answer.
Highly esteemed opponents, if I hear you clearly, you are asking about the role of age in their agency. I got
That's
your
right.
question. It's about the role of agency in the elder Biaoqing. Thank you very much for your question. In the process of running through the data, collecting various usages about the elder Biaoqing, I see more the creativities, more the agencies of young people, young internet users contributing to new norms of usage. But that's only one part of the story. Indeed, I see more and more elder citizens, they began to use the Biaoqing, not only elder Biaoqing, creatively. For example, in one of the cases, I observed that a 50-year-old chemistry teacher used the Biaoqing, which is not confined to the elder types, but also to the very mischievous, vulgar, and violent Biaoqing that are regarded as the specialty of young people. So we began to see older citizens crossing the elder Biaoqing, began to claim possession, claim specialty for Biaoqing in general. So in this sense, the agency of the so-called elder Biaoqing users lies in their initiative, their proactive learning practices to get in touch with more broader, newer, and more communicative, more expressive Biaoqing. And even though I observe only a handful of such cases, but I would say that's an indicator for a new trend for the blurring of age differences in online-offline nexus. It might take time for this difference to finally get even out, but I think it's going in that direction.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Professor Wei, are you satisfied with these answers?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Then in view of the time, I would like to continue the opposition with Professor Swanenberg.
Yes, dear candidates, first of all, my sincere congratulations for your outstanding work and the very important book that results from it. My question is also about elder Biaoqing and the way they are used between young and elder internet users. Elder users have difficulties understanding the different layers of meaning in certain Biaoqing, so elder Biaoqing helps smoothen communication because they express a more literal meaning. What you see is what you get. Now, let's go to a very specific example. On page 152, you have figure 7.6 in the book. And why can we not interpret that wave on page 152 as greetings and as irony or even contempt? I mean the son saying "chat next time" to his mother and in the meantime adding contempt or irony to that wave. Also when used by elderly, because knowledge can be learned by the elderly, I would expect the elder Biaoqing also to be subject to rapid change. That's my question.
Highly esteemed opponents, do you mean the elder Biaoqing? Can you repeat the question?
Yes, very briefly, it would read that elder Biaoqing are taken literally by elder users, and it helps smoothen their communication on the internet. Yet elderly users will also learn and that will change the literal meaning, what you see is what you get meaning, and why could then figure 7.6 not have a wave that means contempt or irony to elderly users? You argue on page 154 that it does not, but how do you know?
Highly esteemed opponents, thank you for your question. I think this question leads us further a step back to the research methodology that I have adopted for this. We know we are observing, I am observing this phenomena through an ethnographic perspective. That means I'm entering their life world and I'm acquiring the knowledge according to my systematic collection of this of information related to this phenomenon. And in this process, subjectivity is an inevitable part of data collection, of data analysis, and in the end, an inevitable part for presenting the insight that is drawn from the data. I would not say because of the subjectivity, then the insight is invalid. On the contrary, the subjectivity is based on my accumulated knowledge of this field and is subjected to self-correction in the process of learning this field, and is also subject to the regulations, to the knowledge of the whole scientific community that I'm part of. On the basis of this, I would say the conclusion that I draw from this figure, from this example, is my interpretation based on my logic analysis of the numerous data that I have collected, I have analyzed. And that's the beauty and also the tricky part of ethnography. We know it, we know people understand it on the basis of our systematic knowledge of it, but we cannot present it as convincingly as the quantitative data. So I would say this is love and hate dilemma of ethnography is behind the analysis and the claims that I made for this data.
Okay, Professor Swanenberg, are you satisfied with this answer?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we continue the opposition with Dr. Hou.
Dear candidate, thank you for your wonderful thesis. I really enjoy reading it. And my question lies in the theme part of the Biaoqing practices. So you have analyzed on page 175 that there are users who transform the image of celebrity into Biaoqing. And as you have argued, Biaoqing is a result of congregational work. So it is a result of users making use of Biaoqing in their local communicative context. That is why the meaning of it is unpredictable, and the transformation of the meaning of Biaoqing are nonlinear. I totally agree with your argument here. But however, if you think about celebrity industry and film industry, it functions totally opposite. So celebrity industry is all about controlling and manufacturing a celebrity and to control it, to protect it. And in Chinese word, we call that 人设, celebrity persona. So my question is that, do you see any conflict in these two ways of managing semiotic resources? One of the bottom-up user application, user appropriation, and the other way is the top-down controlling of celebrity image. In the Biaoqing practices, do you see any conflict between the two ways here?
Highly esteemed opponents, thank you for your question. Indeed, I would say in the case of the fame economy of Biaoqing, the increase of the publicity for some celebrities, we can say is controlled, but we have to dig a step deeper to see through the controlled surface of these celebrity practices for their persona. What we cannot see easily is that it's not only the celebrities who proactively play a role in regulating their persona through this Biaoqing, through various related practices. There is also a role that's playing at the backstage of the phenomenon. That's the algorithm. I have to say they control it through their proactive, their human agencies, And these agencies, these activities would feed back on the algorithms that's working on the social media, which play an important role in ordering the viralities, ordering the visibilities of such phenomena. So I would say there might be conflicts between the celebrity intended persona and what it actually turned out to be. But in such a online and offline nexus, human beings are only parts of the agencies in this phenomena. Algorithms plays the other very important, invisible, but never to be neglected role in regulating the communicative practices in this phenomena, and also in regulating the social effect coming from such actions, such practices. So I would say this is the part that I cannot fully address, because this is where I can reach, what I can observe, and what conclusion I can draw when it comes to the topic of algorithm, when it comes to the topic of controlling of social actions. And I would say with the further development of technologies, with new affordances of infrastructures, maybe in the future we can we will be provided with some tools, some new perspectives to gain more insight into the complex interplay between the agencies of human beings and the agency of algorithms, of AI, etc.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Hou, are you satisfied with this answer?
Yes, I'm satisfied.
There is time for a follow-up question if you have.
Yes, I do have a follow-up question. I would like the candidate to address a little bit one of the example in her thesis, and that is on page 177. So you can see figure 8.9. So that is actually a package of Biaoqing that is incorporated into the WeChat platform. Can you elaborate a bit further on the benefits of the different stakeholders here? So who benefits from what by making this type of Biaoqing economy?
Highly esteemed opponents, thank you for your question. And when we need to, if we want to elaborate more on the stakeholder who benefit from this, I would start from the artist who created this Biaoqing. As I have explained, it is the TV channel in China that's behind this phenomena, as indicated by the name of this artist, and also by the profile picture of this artist. That's the office building with the logo of this TV channel on that building. So we know from this, we can convincingly and logically say that this artist works for this TV channel, and he or she, or even a group behind this, their work is to build Biaoqing, to create Biaoqing exclusively on the basis of the TV programs, of the TV dramas that's produced by this TV channel. So in this sense, this TV channel is top one beneficiary who benefit from this Biaoqing. And the second, which would also be often be neglected, is the artists themselves.
Dank u wel. The session is now closed for deliberation. The live stream connection will be stopped for 15 minutes, so please await the committee's return. You can reconnect to the same link in 15 minutes. Thank you. Dear candidates, the doctoral board of Tilburg University has taken note of your dissertation. Having heard your excellent defense, the doctorate board has decided to confer on you the doctoral degree. In this particular case, on account of your special merits with distinction, or in Latin, cum laude. Congratulations. Yeah. This is indeed very special. I ask Professor Kroon to invest you with this dignity.
It gives me great pleasure to accept the task assigned to me by the Rector Magnificus of the University. By virtue of the authority granted to us by law and by the regulations of the University, in accordance with the decision of the Doctorate Board of Tilburg University, I hereby promote you, Ying, to doctor. You acquire hereby all the rights that law or custom are or will be attached to the doctorate. Apart from rights, the doctorate also comes with obligations. These, first of all, include the execution of research and all other scholarly activities with the utmost integrity. The privilege of being a doctor also entails that society needs to be able to rely on the sound and independent judgment of those holding a doctorate. As proof of you having been awarded the title of doctor, you may take the certificate signed by the rector and the supervisors and confirmed by the university's seal of approval. And as you can guess, that's where the diploma is. Grab it.
So, it's for me a very pleasant task to also congratulate you on behalf of the Tilburg University Doctorate Board with the dignity acquired. I would now like to give the floor to the supervisor for the pronunciation of the laudatio. Please be seated. Just, you remain standing there.
Thank you. Very learned, Madam. Dr. Dear Ying. First of all, congratulations on a job very well done. You have done an amazing job, a very strong defense and outstanding thesis. We are so very proud of you. And I hope you realize what an extraordinary achievement it is to be in this top 5% of people who are awarded a cum laude. So, and if it doesn't sink in quite yet, then we will keep reminding you of that fact. Thinking about your achievement, I was reminded of a story that I read in a book by Howard Becker, and it was about a social sciences dean at the University of Chicago. And he would be in the habit of walking around and attacking unsuspecting staff members in a booming voice, as Becker describes it, with the question, "What brick have you added to the wall of social sciences this week?" That's my best booming voice. I can't do any better. Maybe our dean will can get some inspiration from this approach. We can, of course, question this kind of management approach, but when it comes to your week, Ying, you have definitely added a brick to the wall of social science and humanities and what have you this week. It's a solid piece of work. It's original, it's detailed, it's meticulous, and you've done enormous amounts of work to get there. I thought it was very funny that you mentioned your original proposal during the defense, because when I was preparing for this speech, I went back to the very first proposal that you sent. So I thought maybe we can go a little bit back to the, well, not so distant past. And more specifically to March 19, 2015. You probably didn't guess that my supervisory records go to such details, but don't worry, there will be no exposés or anything like that. But on that day, you sent me the very first research proposal that you wanted to attach to your scholarship application. And I found it funny reading it now, compare that, what you proposed back then, to what you have achieved. Do you still remember the research questions? Don't worry.
Nothing close to what I found out.
No, I can refresh your memory. It's not actually not that far off. You wanted to know, one, how emoticons are used in different situations, and how, two, how emoticons interact with verbal contents. Does that sound familiar to you? No. The reason I wanted to go back to that original proposal is that you are planning to research 10 individual participants and 5 chat groups on WeChat and QQ. No, this is nothing to be embarrassed about, that you had all kinds of, a whole lot of variables listed that you were going to observe, and it was all very detailed and ready to go. So it's not to criticize the proposal. I thought that the most amazing thing now, looking at it last week, was to see the 10 participants and the 5 chat groups. Don't you think? Because in the meantime, of course, you have collected, processed, and made sense of incredible amounts of data for your research. And I'm pretty sure that those who haven't read your work probably have no idea of the amount of footwork that you've actually done and what you have put on paper, because you don't make a lot of noise about yourself while you do that. And I wanted to go back to that proposal indeed, not because it was an unreasonable proposal. You had an idea for keeping yourself busy for the next 4 years, but it was just to point out the incredible efficiency and the amount of effort that you've put in your work that is so mind-boggling, at least to me, and the very contrast between what you proposed and what I think you imagine yourself to be capable of, and what you actually have achieved. And I think that contrast is quite astonishing. I hope you now know what you're capable of. And speaking of astonishing, I hope you don't mind that I say something about these two guys as well. These two fine gentlemen, the dynamic duo, Jan and Sjaak, because now that Sjaak is 2 weeks away from retirement, for me it's the last chance to say something about these two together as a co-supervisor. And it's to your credit, by the way, Ying, that you have handled with so much grit and grace, being hounded and ambushed by the 3 of us. I think you have done an amazing job, and these two will definitely give you a run for your money, I would say, as they have done with so many others before you, 10, you said altogether, the 2 of them. I'm not sure if there's anyone in the known universe quite as reliable as Sjaak, to always have the time to take out his red pen, it's often red, and to read your text and then read it again and then read it again, and always with so much care and attention. And when Sjaak says something is marvelous, then you know it's marvelous, because otherwise he would let you know that it's suboptimal. Suboptimal is the word, I think. So you're 2 weeks away from retirement, and I feel sorry for those who won't experience your tough love supervision. And then there's Jan, of course, who has read everything, all the books, never fails to have something new to say. And Ying, I guess you're also familiar by now with the dangerous line when Jan comes to you and says, "I've been thinking about this thing you showed me." And then you know that it's going to be a roller coaster. You know, uh-oh, this is going to be quite something. There's always something new and original and inspiring there. And you, Ying, have taken every opportunity. So like I said, with grace and grit, you have survived all of us. And it's to your credit that you really take every opportunity to learn something new, to develop yourself, and you have done an amazing job. Yeah, and it's quite a combination, these two. And I think it should also be mentioned that it's for a reason that Tilburg is on the map and known the world over for original and exciting research such as yours, Ying. I think we have these two to thank for that. And you've shown the way for many of us younger people, and I say younger very deliberately because Ying is still young, but many of us others not so much anymore. And I'm sure you join me, Ying, in saying thank you for everything. And then finally, Ying, we celebrate today your incredible achievement, your fantastic work. But being an academic is not, or at least maybe it should not be, about achievement alone. But here also we find something to commend you for. Your solidarity and collegiality. These are qualities that are maybe not so much in fashion in academia nowadays. It's more about elbow work and the rat race, even though even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. But you, Ying, are definitely someone, you're somebody with a lot of talent, but having spent countless hours with you, not only looking at emojis, but also talking about other things, this whole thing outside the manuscript that we call life, I know that you're also someone who is concerned with what is the right thing to do. You are concerned with what is the best thing to do for everybody, and you're always considerate toward your colleagues. So we have been very, very lucky to have you as a colleague, and I wish there were more like you. A good head and a good heart are a formidable combination, as they say. So now I have said what I meant what I said, which is very important for a Finn. And I think it's a shame, of course, that we cannot now all go together and have a drink as we normally would. But please, please don't let it dampen your festive spirit, because we have a lot to celebrate. You have done a fantastic job. We are ever so proud of you. We will keep telling that to you. And so as we have a lot to celebrate, that's what we're going to do. COVID-proof, of course. So let's get to it, and once more, Ying, thank you for your amazing work and everything you have given us. I have spoken.
Thank you very much for this laudatio. This brings us to an end of this academic session. I now have to close this session, and therefore I would like to ask you to stand up and remove the cap if you have one. So I end with a prayer. May our search be instilled with gratitude. May mercy be our guide, and may love go before us. The session is closed.
Can I say thank you to the colleagues as well who have helped us in the capacity of evaluators. And maybe just one footnote. We of course have ideas about how a committee should be made and should be balanced and so on and so on. And in this case, you know, you guys are really not an easy committee. You're not walkovers. And we are very, very happy and indeed very proud, you know, to have been able to gather you around this particular piece of work. And we wanted the committee to be hard because we knew this was good work. Thank you for the work you invested in it, and thank you for your great collegiality and your openness in the discussion of the results here. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Very nice contribution, Jan. Okay, we close the meeting now, and we No? The committee stays. Okay. Okay. So what do we need to do now?
Our stream is stopped already.
Okay.
So what I would like to suggest is that committee members have the occasion to congratulate Ying. So I would like to invite you behind the lectern, that you are also able to say something. So you may give the floor to
Okay.
the same, I would say the same
Order.
order as
Okay.
the
Okay. I'm sitting down now as well, otherwise. Members of the committee, yeah, please sit down. If you wish, you can say some congratulations to the candidate. So we do that in the order of, sorry, not the candidate, the young doctor, sorry. Yes, I have to adapt. We can probably do that in the same order as the questions. So Professor Zhu.
Oh, many congratulations to Dr. Lu. It's actually really my pleasure to read your thesis and to take part in this defense. I actually also want to congratulate the supervisors and knowing, having a good PhD, how much it takes to shape it and then to watch and to develop it into what excellent thesis. I also want to have to say something very personal to Yang. We are very, very sorry to hear your problem, but I hope you don't mind we actually saying this. It was really good to see you here, and I hope you stay strong, and I hope to see you in person one day. And also have a personal note to Sjaak. I didn't know you 2 weeks from retirement. You look so young to retire. I hope everything goes well and enjoy the freedom.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Seargeant? You want to add something? Or yeah.
Yes, I hope you can hear me a bit clearer this time. Many congratulations. It was, as I said, it was a very interesting thesis. The topic is one that I'm particularly interested in, but didn't know a great deal about Biaoqing particularly before. And I said I very much hope to read more of your work in the future, and all the best with what to make of your career. Likewise, as Zhu Hua said, thank you very much to the panel and to Tilburg generally. This is the second defense I've been invited to, and they've both been a pleasure. It's a great shame that we're scattered around the world in the way we are right at the moment, but it's very nice to see everyone and to be part of such a celebratory event. So thank you very much, and once again, congratulations.
Thank you. Professor Wei.
Very well done, Lu Yang. Congratulations. It's such a wonderful, really, really important and interesting project. I hope you enjoyed the process of doing this research. I hope you had fun, because it's really important not to forget, good quality academic research should also be interesting and fun. So I hope you have a wonderful future career ahead of you. I'm sure you will. And again, thank you, and also congratulations to the supervisors. Sjaak, you will have more time to do paper reviews and other things. I'm sure I will call upon your help again. And yeah, it's so nice to see you, and so many people are talking about you. And you have, I must say this, you have actually supervised more Chinese students, Chinese PhD in Tilburg and elsewhere on this, in social linguistics and on social media and on various other social topics. And it's really, really important to acknowledge that the contribution you have made through the supervision and the collaborations with Chinese young scholars through Chinese social linguistics. It's so, so important. We're all very grateful and hope you take care and keep well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Professor Swanenberg.
Yes, dear Ying, Dr. Lu, congratulations, of course, also from me. You did so well. I will see you in person within 1 hour, I think, because I am in Tilburg at the moment. And then we'll congratulate you again in person. And now I would really like to congratulate you, Jan, Sjaak, and Piia, the three of you, with a wonderful cum laude. Very good, and very proud of you all. Thank you.
Yes. Dr. Hou, please.
Congratulations, Dr. Lu Ying. I still remember the first day that we met at Schiphol Airport. That's the first day that you come to the Netherlands. And I still also remember the first day that I got your printed version of the thesis. And it really, well, made me think how time flies. And when I read your thesis, it's a surprise, or it's actually, well, I understand it, that's a lot of data to manage. That's a lot of data to analyze and make sense of all the logics there. So I really understand all the ups and downs during this process. And I also enjoy actually chatting with you every day, and also collaborate with you sometimes during our study process. So well, I share my understanding in this whole process. And I also want to congratulate the supervisors, because you were also my supervisors, and I understand like how to work with them, and I understand the experiences of being marked by all the red pens and being asked to elaborate on this from Sjaak. So I now, when I began to supervise students, I realized that how annoying sometimes, when you read rubbish works. So I think I will learn more from my supervisors and also learn more from Dr. Lu. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
So thank you very much, all.
May I do another suggestion? Because we have to be creative now. I'd like to make a photograph of all of us. So the committee members, they stay where they are. You too. And if possible, I saw Jan, are you able to stand?
I can stand for a few minutes,
Just a few minutes. So the moment that we are all set, then you stand. And so I would like to invite you.
In front.
Here in front of the, yes, in the middle of the stage, yes, just, yeah, perfect. And also the Chinese and your, and please keep distance.
Yeah.
As far as
The wide
as
angle.
it is necessary. And then I would like to invite someone where you stand.
Yeah, or there.
No, you just stand here, because it doesn't matter if I'm taller than you are. You stand a little bit in front. And then I would like to ask someone, maybe it's better to make a plan. Do you have everyone?
Yeah, the two of you have, yeah. Yeah, if you're one household, so to say. Then.
Okay, then we smile.
Yes. Yeah, sure. That's always good.
Straight to Instagram.
And then I have another, and then you may ask if the committee members they can leave now, because we are also.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We are now leaving this room, so the committee members, once more, thank you very much for your contribution, but you are free to leave the session now, of course. Thank you very much.